What is up, guys? Lone Hawk here today, and welcome back to Overwatch. In today's video, we're going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks that I think can really help you, and it may be a little bit more advanced, or maybe at least intermediate tips that some of you hopefully don't know about, and hopefully you will now, and you'll be able to use them to win more games, and maybe boost your competitive rank. No lies, we're kind of going to be all over the place. Some tips will be about in-game strats you should be using and things you should be doing, and others are going to be meta-related. And I guess we'll just start with my first tip, which is meta related, and that's you don't always have to stick strictly to the meta. Oftentimes, a big difference I see between intermediate players or even bad players and good players is that the good players, the great players, understand the meta. They understand which heroes are best right now, which heroes work better, and which heroes work differently on different maps. That's pretty self-explanatory. However, what separates these good players from the great players is knowing when these meta heroes fall out of their class, where they just aren't as good as they normally would be. I don't have time to go over every single meta composition and everything in this video, but just know, even if the meta says that Zarya is the best tank, which in my opinion she is, Zarya is probably the best tank right now, that doesn't mean you have to play a Zarya. The meta also says that Reinhardt is almost necessary on payload maps and other maps because, well, he provides a giant shield and he's the only hero that can do that. However, I can say with personal experience that we've done quite well. Me and my competitive team have done quite well without having a Reinhardt on even payload and assault maps. It can be done, and you can do well without using meta heroes. I mean, one of our guys loves D.Va. He's madly in love with D.Va, and it scares me sometimes. I think he has a problem. He should probably get it checked out. However, she's not meta, but he still plays her probably better than anyone I've seen play D.Va in person. Gold limbs, gold damage, it doesn't even matter. He's really good with D.Va. And this isn't at low ranks either. We're at high plat trying to hit diamond here, and he's still excelling with her. And to be honest, I think D.Va is one of the worst tanks in the game right now. I like Winston better. I like Zarya better. I like Roadhog and Reinhardt better. But he somehow makes it work. And that's great. What I'm saying here is if there's a hero you think you can do well with, maybe it's Mei, maybe it's Torbjorn. Don't use Torbjorn. Maybe it's anyone but Torbjorn. It doesn't matter. If you can do well with them, it's okay to not play the meta. And, people might bash you for that, but you just have to ignore them and prove them wrong. Also, it doesn't even have to be a hero you're exceptionally good with. You can also just play heroes that counter enemy heroes if you're adept with them. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the meta is good. And it's good to learn heroes that are in the meta. However, there's something to be said about someone who just has a hero mastered. If you've mastered a hero, it doesn't matter if they're meta or not, unless they're completely garbage. You can still do well with them. I forewarned you we'd be all over the place today, so we're going to take our next tip right to an in-game strategy you should be using every single game. It should become a habit for you as it's become a habit for me and some of my friends and my teammates. I'm sure you all know you don't want to push points without your full team because then your deaths become staggered, and if you're pushing without your full team, then when the rest of your team gets to the point, chances are you're probably dead, and it doesn't work out in your favor because you're never pushing the objective with your whole team. Now, what you can do is spin this to your advantage whenever you kill a few members of the enemy team. Likely, they will be trying to back off if they're smart, and they'll try to regroup and minimize the damage of a lost fight. What you can do is try to chase them down and try to stagger their deaths. This means if they're on the point and they're the last one alive and you know there's really no chance of them killing any of you, literally leave them alive for a few more seconds. That way their death is staggered. The rest of the team may start pushing without them because they died too late, or the rest of their team has to wait a little bit longer to push. And if you keep doing this, it can actually add up in a game and take away maybe one total push near the end of the game because you can make the enemy team lose like 30 seconds if they push every time and you make them lose like 5 seconds each time. So staggering the enemy team's deaths will help you a lot. A few things to note though is be cautious when doing this. Never try to stagger a Mercy's death because she can just revive her team, and never chase too far to try to stagger the enemy team's death because I've seen teams chase all the way into our spawn. Like if you're the attacking team, I've seen defending teams chase me to my spawn and it costs them the game because my full team respawns, they're caught out of position, and we take the game because they tried to stagger us and they took it too far. So be cautious with this. Just do it when it's convenient. Keep it in the back of your mind and try to stagger stagger the enemy team's deaths and respawns. My third tip for this video is one I've seen proven in practice and one I should probably try to work on a little bit more often. And it's just simply warming up before you go into competitive. Warm up in quick play, or even better is go into a custom game and warm up with your friends. That way you don't go into your first competitive match cold. Honestly, I probably don't warm up long enough. My warm up session consists of usually one quick play game where I just mess around and then I just completely change the mindset and go into competitive. What you really want to do is try to recreate the competitive scene as best as possible before you actually go into it. Get into the right mindset, get your aim ready, make sure you're warmed up and ready to go. Because honestly, I've seen in practice, A, when I don't warm up, my first game is bad, and B, even when I do warm up, it usually takes till the end of my first game to really get going. So the longer you have to warm up, maybe get on a few minutes before all your friends and make sure you're warm, or encourage them to all get on earlier, because warming up, believe it or not, helps you a lot. You may think you're perfectly warm, you may think you're totally ready to go, but I promise you, if you just came from doing something other than Overwatch and go straight into competitive, you're not going to be playing at peak performance. So just keep that in mind and try to warm up. I understand that last tip wasn't necessarily advanced. I mean, I just said to warm up. However, I know high-level players and players that do play at a very advanced level actually do warm up. That's why I included it. These are tips that I know good players use, and I want to share them with you. Our last tip is going to be about advantages. You should always be aware of the advantages you have over the enemy team or the advantages they have over you, because they definitely change the outcome of a game. The first advantage you should always be trying to seek out and take advantage of when it happens is a pick. A pick is when you kill a member of the enemy team while suffering minimal losses yourself, usually none. So the fight is essentially a 6v5. When this happens, you should immediately start pushing, or at least try to kill the enemy team and get them off the objective and stagger their deaths. Because in practice, if your teams are equally ranked and you're in competitive, a pick should normally mean you can kill the enemy team. Now, this isn't always the case, because another set of advantages you or the enemy team can have are ultimate advantages. Ultimates, obviously, as you all know, change fights drastically, insanely. They are extremely powerful, so you really need to use them well. You also need to be aware of when enemies have their ultimates ready to go, and try to think of combos that they might use and ways to counter them. For example, a Zarya plus a Pharah or a Hanzo can be a completely deadly combo that can wipe your whole team, so it's probably a good idea to have a Zenyatta to deal with that. In essence, you really just need to have these things in the back of your head at all times. Don't go on autopilot mode where you just see and react. I know a lot of players who just see and react. It seems like in some of my Coach Hawk videos, I've never said it, but some players just see and react. They don't behave proactively. They don't think ahead about things like this. So thinking ahead, acting proactively, planning ahead, these things will help you, I promise. Hopefully these tips were helpful to you all. If they were, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter for frequent updates about what's going on with videos and stuff at LoneHawk with a 0, not an O, and I will see you guys all later. LoneHawk out.